Welcome in to the CHGO Bears Podcast. I have never been this excited for a show, at least in the last, I don't know, let's call it 28 days. Good to be back. Good to see my partner in crime, the one and only Gregory P. Allen Bragg's preseason coverage of the CHGO Bears Podcast, presented by Ray Chevrolet. Shop the Freedom to Save sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. Serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Gregory, I missed you. I want to know, before we get into this, first of all, in the chats, I want to know who missed me the most, because this is all about me. It's my return today. And second of all, Gregory, what do you think the number one thing I missed the last 4 days sitting at the Mecca that is the U.S. Open in New York? I do want next year to take a CHGO trip to the U.S. Open with Bears fans as a preseason celebration. Maybe we do it over Labor Day into the season, get you ready for, the back-to-back Super Bowl run type of thing. I think I want to do that. But back to, what do you think the number one thing I missed this week? Thank you, Greeky Bear. I appreciate the welcome back. What did I miss, Greg?
Tyson Bagent? I don't know.
Something happened with Bagent this week.
No, he's fine. He's fine. Relax. He's fine. Okay. I'm a me guy, so me.
I know you're recovering from. Have you been talking about your recovery on the show?
My ACL. Yes, I'm doing better. Doing a lot better the last few days.
I'm enjoying these chats, like the people that don't want to admit they missed me, but missed me. Would you fall under that umbrella?
No, I missed you for sure.
Okay, and you're willing to admit it. You knew it would be hard on you. That type of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. All right. I feel better. I know I need to self-validate here, but I need a little bit of a prop up. All right. One like equals one prayer for Greg Braggs.
Are you going to tell us what you missed the most?
I didn't miss anything. I had a great week.
And why did you ask me this question, Steven? I thought minutes into this show, nonsense already. Jesus.
Well,
Mary.
I thought.
Welcome back, Carm.
Well, Steven, what did you miss about me not being here the most?
What did I miss about you not being here the most?
Yeah. You could say nothing. It's okay. Any answer is fine.
We didn't get any impersonations.
Oh.
So there's one right now.
There we go. Already. There we go. Well, I thought you might say you missed the second to last Hard Knocks episode. You could have talked about.
I did try to get Travis on that night because he had a big showing on the last Hard Knocks, but he was doing a viewing party with his friends, so we weren't able to get him on. But Travis did have some big airtime on the most recent Hard Knocks, so I know he's our buddy. So shout out to Travis.
Travis is coming on soon, and I can't wait to have Travis on. We're gonna put him in the old studio. Is what we're gonna do with Travis Bagent. All right, so let's actually get into it. Mark Potash is coming up here in about 10 minutes from now, roughly. So we're looking forward to, as always, talking to Potsy, who does a phenomenal job covering the Bears for the Chicago Sun-Times. But what was actually on my mind and what I did miss was talking about the quarterback. And I was hanging out with, let's name drop here. I was hanging out with my good buddies Nick Wright and Danny Parkins in New York. I think maybe some people saw those photos. So we started talking at dinner late night, one or two cocktails in, about what a successful season looks for Caleb Williams. And, look, I'm like, I've been saying up to this point, be a lot better at the end of the year than you are at the start of the year. I'm not going to worry about numbers. I'm not going to worry about wins. I'm not going to worry about playoff wins. I'm not going to worry about any of that. But I do think the reality of the situation is that there are some real numbers and some real accomplishments that have been put out by two quarterbacks, that I think we can look as measuring sticks. Now, the two quarterbacks that I'm picking are, of course, C.J. Stroud, Offensive Rookie of the Year, led a team that nearly was the worst in all of football, or arguably the worst in all of football the year prior, with Tank Dell that no one had ever heard of, and now is a household name. And CJ, just had a phenomenal year. 4,108 yards, 23 touchdowns. It doesn't jump off the page, but only 5 interceptions does. He only had 2 games under 150 yards throwing the entire season. 140 versus Carolina. They lost 15-13. He was sacked twice in that game, didn't throw a pick, didn't throw a touchdown. He had a 91-yard game in their worst loss of the season to the Jets, 30-6. He was 10 for 23. But then on the plus side, right, he throws 470 yards, 5 touchdowns against the Bucs, last-minute drive to win it, 75 yards in 40 seconds. Okay, you beat Tampa, no big deal, even though that's a big deal. And then the next week, he follows it up, 356, beats the Bengals. What's up, Joe Burrow? Another last-minute drive to win it. D'Amico Ryans talking about him after that game, the calmness in the chaos. I mean, these are things that we hear about Caleb, right? They go to the playoffs. They beat the Browns. That's not that impressive, but it's still a playoff win. Joe Flacco, whatever, still a playoff win. And, okay, they lose to the Ravens. That's the end of the season. Like, that bar being put out last year is something that Caleb's going to be compared to all season long. And the other guy that I look at, who it's totally different, but I think similar, it's another guy who threw for 4,100 plus yards, 4,159, and that's Jordan Love. Now, he had the benefit of sitting. We all know this, but the dude came in and immediately was very good. 32 touchdowns against only 11 interceptions. That's another guy who went to the playoffs, won a playoff game, completed 76% of his passes in said playoff game, threw 3 touchdown passes. And then, the Packers nearly got by the Niners, your Super Bowl, the whole thing. And I think those two, I think you're going to be looking in the division. How's he matching up against this young quarterback up there? We saw it, he threw 3 touchdown passes against the Bears in week 1 last year, Jordan Love. We want to start at the beginning, and Bears fans I didn't want to admit that, oh my God, this guy looks real. But we saw, and I know this is long-winded, Greg, but we saw him like standing back there in the pocket and calmness in the chaos. Jordan Love had it instantly. He's flicking touchdown passes.
Right.
So those are 2 guys that you can really look at, Gregory. I don't agree or disagree, as kind of markers for what would be considered a successful season for Caleb in year 1.
Well, yeah, those are the top end markers, right? And Caleb, CJ Stroud did that in 15 games. Jordan had 17, but both certainly high markers, especially going into the playoffs and winning a playoff game. And I think if we would have added Brock Purdy into this discussion too, I think he came in at a halfway point of the season, but he's also somebody who came in right away and became a difference maker. And what do all 3 of these guys have in common? Maybe not so much with the Packers, but playmakers all around them, good play callers behind them. And when Matt Eberflus talked the other day about what the key is to making sure that Caleb Williams has a good rookie season, he said, he wants him to play point guard, but it's about play calling and putting Caleb Williams in the best position possible to deliver the football to the guys that are special and go let them be special. Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus both talked about that. San Francisco 49ers are loaded with talent. So when they drop a quarterback in there, they don't miss a beat. Sam Darnold got in there last year and they were moving the football, right? So you put this team that you have, all this talent around Caleb Williams. The question is, what can Shane Waldron do for Caleb Williams? And so those are the high bar examples. Now, if you take it down to a Bears example of the couple different quarterbacks that have come in and have had good years or better than what we're used to here in Chicago years, the bar is so much lower, right? So we're like trying to find that happy medium of the top end expectations of CJ Stroud and then the low end expectations of just at least be better than the quarterbacks that have been here, right? So if you look at Mitch Trubisky's numbers in 2018, no, it wasn't his rookie year, but it was a first-year offense under Matt Nagy. And in 14 games, 3,223 yards, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 95.4. The team went 12-4 with a really good defense. They made the playoffs. We all know what happened. 66.6% completion percentage. And I saw Brendan Shagru was on with my guy Adam Rank, and they were talking about this. Like, are those numbers good enough if he hit those numbers, would you deem that a successful season? And I thought it was an interesting question, especially when you consider that was only in 14 games. If Mitch had played 16, maybe he gets past the 3,500 yard marker. Because for me, if Caleb's able to have 3,500 plus yards, around 25 or more touchdowns, and less than 15 interceptions, that to me is, without any context of how and when and why, like that's where we want to go. Of course, I think he's capable of much more than that, but I also am trying to be reasonable in my expectations, even though I do think this guy is a gamer. Now, if we go to the most talented quarterback of my lifetime here in Chicago and go to Jay Cutler's first year here in Chicago, a guy that came in with a resume, came in as a Pro Bowler, tons of hype, unbelievable hype when he came in. We threw a freaking parade when we traded for Jay Cutler. 16 games played, 60% completion percentage in his first year with the Bears, 3,666 yards, 27 touchdowns, but 26 interceptions with a quarterback rating of 76.8, and the whole thing burned down in flames. The team went 7-9 after, I think, having a 9-7 season the year before and just missing the playoffs with Kyle Orton. So Jay Cutler had unbelievable talent, and he hit his crescendo with the Bears. He eventually showed all the talent that he had and started to minimize those mistakes. And I do think there is a little bit of Cutler in Caleb Williams in that he is uber talented, unbelievable arm talent, but is going to make mistakes at times because he's going to try to fit throws into NFL windows that he has to learn whether or not are acceptable risks to take. And that's a learning curve a lot of rookies have to go through. And it's just a matter of how much of that learning curve is he going to learn to holster that back. I don't think it's going to be 26 interceptions, but that's why I said 15 or less picks. The fumbles are certainly something we have to monitor. They haven't been an issue here at camp or in the preseason, but it was an issue for Caleb at USC. So how many turnovers do you have, right? Try to keep that number of touchdowns 25 or over, but more importantly, let's not get those turnovers to 20 or over, because now we're talking about a guy that's playing reckless and not playing, under control, which is what a point guard should be doing.
So, and that I like where you ended that. And by the way, amazing job pulling in the graphics there, Gregory. You're on your game. I find
Steven is the one that made the graphics, so we're going to give our guy the credit that he is due. But yes, me and Steven been working hard in the lab this morning trying to make sure everybody can get the visuals that they deserve here on the CHGO Bears podcast.
Well, let me give you one from the Carm clan where there is no visual, but the guy that I looked up, I don't know, Gregory, where do you rank Joe Burrow in your pantheon of NFL quarterbacks right now? You don't even have to answer it.
Top five, right?
Top five. Top five good enough. Burrow gets a little complicated because if you're somebody who loves him, you'll put him all the way up to 2, and if you're somebody that's worried about a quarterback getting hurt, you actually might drop him out of the top 5, even though he is, when healthy. I don't think it's even an argument that he's actually top 3 if he's healthy. But Burrow, got hurt his first year,
right?
And he, of course, they get to go to the Super Bowl the next year, but his first season, he lost a lot of tough games. 31-27 to the Colts, 37-34 to the Cleveland Browns, 35-30 to the Cleveland Browns again, right? He didn't throw for under 183 yards in any game. 183 was his worst. That was in a 27-3 loss to Baltimore. He had 5 games, 300 or more, including a 406 in the Browns loss. And he ends up this season with 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2,688 yards. This is a guy that people, when healthy, would absolutely kill for. And his first season was a little bit wonky. I don't know. My point is this: a lot of wide-ranging possibilities here for what a successful season would look like. But the bar has been raised, I think, because of what CJ did last year.
A lot of rookie quarterbacks here in the last 10 years, right? Kyler Murray, our guy down in Jacksonville, that came in with the high prodigy status. So
sure, Trevor was there too. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the college quarterbacks are more capable of being ready quicker than in the past.
The point of this whole segment, the bar is high, and I'm going to point that out, but I'm also going to try to be realistic about it at the same time. All right, Mark Potash coming up in a second here, but first I want to say hello to our friends at Rowback. The Rowback activewear is the activewear you should be wearing. You all know by now that we love our Rowback. It's got the best fit, it's got the best feel, it's the quality. It really just actually speaks for itself. Fall's right around the corner. What better item to prepare the season than adding one of their performance hoodies to your closet? Gregory, you could use a couple of those. They're the softest items that they got over there. Perfect for you in your fall hoodie looking. Best looking, best fitting. Collars never lose their shape. They've got it all with the solids, the stripes, fun prints, all of it. This is what you do. Use the code CHGO20 on rowback.com, RHOBACK.com. You get a generous 20% off your first order. That is spelled once again, RHOBACK.com. 20% off all polos, hoodies, and shorts with the code CHGO20. Make sure to check them out and they will have you ready for whatever travels or activities you have.
That's right. Want to give a quick shout out here to Mint Mobile. Mark Potash joining us here just in a few moments. And I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. I will crawl through a bed of hot coals for Mark Carman returning. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. So to get started, go to mintmobile.com/CHGO. Then you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. So to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/CHGO. That's mintmobile.com/CHGO. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/CHGO. $45 up front, payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plans. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right, Gregory, we are efforting Mark Potash right now, who rarely is late. So I don't know if you need to resend that link to Mark.
Yep, I'm going to re-email that buddy boy to him.
Potsy is one of the most on-time, on-point media members in the history of media.
Well, and we've got a lot to live up to here because, we talked about this on the show yesterday with Adam Hogue, Mark, and, I jumped the gun on Adam Johns. They were trying to book Adam Amin for the show on Friday for Hogan Johns. And I got Adam Amin for next week. Little spill the tea for you guys. And so same thing this week. Then I get Mark Potash to agree to come on here today. Well, guess who Johns pivoted and tried to get to come on the show for Hogan Johns? Mark Potash, who was just on with Hogan Johns for the last hour. So I don't know if you had a chance to tune into it, Mark, but it was a very good episode where they talked a lot about coverage in Platteville and Bourbonnais and the difference between camp then to camp now. And it was a fun interview, but we're going to have a better interview here than Hogan Johns. We're going to dominate those two Adams, and the meatballs here are going to show the Adams what's up.
Well, since you went down this road, I called Hogue yesterday and didn't call me back. Called him today, instantly buttoned. I didn't even get through a quarter of a ring, and I was sent to voicemail. And then, he texted me and said, I'm doing Hogan Johns. And I'm like, you should stop Hogan Johns to talk to Carm. I mean, we haven't spoken in a week, and all the things. 1999. I mean, look at Crystal. I'm late, but Carm is back. Welcome back, Carm. You were Miss Bear Down. That's what I was expecting from Hogue. Crystal is working for me. Steven, while we wait for Potsy, rumor has it you have a comp in the quarterback room that you wanna throw out there.
I do, and this might be a little bit of a surprising one. It's Baker Mayfield. So he did these numbers in only 14 games, 13 starts. 27 TDs, 14 interceptions. So what really stands out here is that number is the 27 TDs. Only 4 QBs, rookie QBs in NFL history have ever thrown for 26 or more TDs in a season. That's Peyton Manning with 26, Russell Wilson with 26, Baker Mayfield listed here, and then Justin Herbert has the record at 31. I want to see Caleb become the 5th quarterback to hit that benchmark.
26.
And I think if he does that, we're looking at this as a very successful season for both Caleb Williams and the Bears.
Well, and Baker Mayfield, and as I mentioned earlier, Kyler Murray, 2 quarterbacks that were successful in their rookie year, and 2 quarterbacks that come from the same college system, same college coaches that Caleb Williams had under him. So we're ready here for Mark Potash. Excited to bring him on here to join CHGO Bears once again. How we doing today, Potsy?
Doing great, Greg. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Mark Carman makes his illustrious return to Chicago sports media. He was at the U.S. Open all week, big timing it with Nick Wright and Danny Parkins.
No. They were big timing it with me. Let's get it straight. I mean, they're slightly more successful in their careers, but I'm the guy at the U.S. Open. Potsy, great to see you. I know you were doing I think there was another podcast with this Adam Hogue guy and this Adam Johns that you were also on today. You're a busy man. We appreciate you making time.
Sure, we're going to do a better job.
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to start with the Ryan Poles press conference, which I didn't, have the benefit of being at, but I'm, going through it and just picking out some quotes here that I wanted to get the Mark Potash honest reaction to. And okay, so my biggest concern with the team, Potsy, is up front, right? And I'll just read you Poles' quote. And we're talking about the offensive line, not the defensive line. Quote, "This is the best depth I've ever had. When we let one of the guys go on cutdowns, I said, man, you did an excellent job. I wish we could keep you here." And then he said, "This is the deepest room I've ever been a part of. We have more versatility, more depth. Shoot, we have 10 guys I feel comfortable. Obviously, you want your starting 5 healthy and ready to go, but I feel more confident in our O-line than I ever have before." Did your antenna go up during that moment? Like, really? Do you actually believe that? And if so, then maybe I'm missing something. Maybe the O-line is in a much better place than I think they are.
Well, he was asked specifically about depth, I think, which is why he approached that. But depth isn't the Bears' issue, to tell you the truth, in the offensive line. It's continuity, what he referred to at the end. And it really doesn't matter whether Ryan Bates is the center or the guard, or whether Nate Davis is the right guard or Ryan Bates is. None of that really matters. Those are interchangeable pieces. What matters is that all 5 of them play together every single game. That's what the Bears need. They've had, I go over this stat every time. They've had 18 different starting lineups in 34 games. That's more than half. They've never had the same starting lineup 4 times in a row. They've never had the same group together for more than 137 snaps in 2 years. I mean, that's just not unless you have 5 All-Pros or 7 All-Pros, that's not a recipe for success. And even though the Bears have led the league in rushing, or second, I can't remember what the number was, the pass protection just is where it hurts the most, and that's been evident. So I go back to, the depth is great, but when you throw a new guy in there, he's still a new guy, and that's still and the more important thing is to have 5 just above average guys playing together than it is to have a couple of anchors and all mixing and matching all season. My history shows that, going back to the Peyton era. So I think the biggest thing I got out of that is really what they need is something they don't control for the most part, and that's continuity.
Well, just for the record, I'm sorry, Greg, but just for the record, the Bears were second last year as far as running the football, 141.1, just ahead of the Niners and behind the Ravens, who were at the top. Go ahead, Brex.
Yeah, and I was going to piggyback off that point, Mark, because when we were talking about comparisons of quarterbacks that have had successful years, and then talking about the Bears quarterbacks, Jay Cutler's most successful year, the most successful offensive year I've ever seen, the 2013 Chicago Bears under Mark Trestman. To your point, the offensive line, all 5 guys started all 16 games together, and it didn't consist of Pro Bowlers. It had 2, Jordan Morgan and Kyle Long and Matt Slauson and Jermon Bushrod. Certainly guys that aren't,
good players, but
good. Right. They're not making the Hall of Fame.
And not interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but even further to the point, Chris Morgan, the only time Chris Morgan in like 8 seasons has had that same situation, all 5 starters start every game. His quarterback was the MVP of the league, and the Falcons went to the Super Bowl and only lost because they had breakdowns in the offensive line. Their center and one of their tackles got hurt, And that cost them ultimately at the end when they had the game in their hand, had a negative rush, a hold, a sack, and couldn't kick a field goal that would have put the game on, not on ice, but certainly would have almost clinched that game. So even not just the Bears, but almost every team, you can always pinpoint continuity as a key to success, and Chris Morgan knows it as well as anyone else.
Mark Potash, Chicago Sun-Times with the Potsy. Everyone's talking about when you speak, people listen that you know what you're talking about. A lot of love for you on the CHGO Bears podcast. Can you slide just a drop to your right, Potsy? I want to get you in the center of the screen so you look more even.
Yeah.
There you go. We want to see.
Okay.
Yeah, now you're there. We want the whole face. This is you deserve a good
with
little.
With the tight screen, we don't get the old school TV in the background, but that's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're fine, and we appreciate you. I just want you, your quadrant should look as pristine as you are.
Okay.
All right, so here we started the show with what is a successful season for Caleb Williams. So let me just ask you that direct question, Mark. What if you were going to try to define that ahead of week 1 here in the Titans? What would you say?
With all the circumstances taken into account, I expect him to be better than Mitch Trubisky or Justin Fields ever were with the Bears. And it's not as low a bar as you think, because in 2018, Trubisky, had like a 95.4, I think it was 95.4 pass rating, which was middle of the pack. It wasn't great, but he averaged 230 yards. The Bears obviously won games, and he made the Pro Bowl as an alternate. But in the big picture, that's certainly something that he can accomplish, again, with all the circumstances that should be in his favor. And also, Fields' best year was last year. So I think the number was 247 or 250 total yards per game. He should definitely be able to do that. But there's little things that, can he be better in the fourth quarter than he was in the first, which the Bears were horribly bad at last year? Can he win games in the end? Can he win shootouts? There's many other factors that go into it. I don't know how that figures out, but if you're looking for just statistical, I would say at the very least, at the lowest, I expect him to be better than any Bears quarterback has been since Cutler.
Well, and you know how we are as Bears fans, we get lost in the sauce in the offseason and overhype ourselves on things that we're dreaming of that never actually come to fruition. And we've done this with many quarterbacks, many teams here in the past, certainly of recent. So with all the hype surrounded by around this team and this quarterback specifically, are you buying it? Do you think that that bar that you set, or even beyond that, is something that you believe will happen?
Yeah, I think it will. I think unless they have unless the crazy things happen, injuries and whatever all the other stuff that usually happens at Hales Hall, but. Yeah, I think it's very doable. Excuse me. It's not pie in the sky. It's not asking too much. That's kind of the theme, I think, of this year, is that relative to other years, not to get too far off track, but you're asking, for instance, you're not asking for too much. It's a big difference asking like Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker to take the next step than it is to ask for Adam Shaheen to have a breakout season, because he never showed that he could do that anyway. So you're asking things that I think are more expectation than hope. And I think the quarterback goes along with that based on what I've seen so far, which is him already making plays that Justin Fields and Mitch Trubisky could not make, and having better talent around him to take advantage of those situations, and having a play caller who's had experience calling plays, and a defense that's going to keep you in the game. So if you go 3 and out 3 times in a row, you're not down 21-0. You're even, like you was against the Bengals. And I know that was not the Bengals' first team offense, but the point is that, it makes it a lot easier when you get out there that third or fourth time and you're not down 14-0 to the Packers. You're 0-0, and that puts a little bit of heat on the defense to stop you. So you can't underestimate the impact of a good Bears defense helping Caleb Williams, giving him, just putting the wind at his back, which is what Bears quarterbacks, for the most part, except for Trubisky in 2018, have not had.
Potsy, hang right there, and feel free to pull out one of the books over your right shoulder there that we should read while we have this just to thank our friends who make the show possible. One of those friends is ComEd. It's getting easier for business to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it, Gregory.
That's right. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do?
They should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
That's right. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
All right. And you want to shop your summertime savings at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. You want to save on the perfect new vehicle for you this August. Right now, get it going. Score new, lower prices across their huge inventory during the Make This the Summer event. So for a limited time, you're getting 0% financing for 36 months on most of their new 2024 Jeep models. Or you can shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey. And with the raised price promise that I experienced, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because the Ray price promise means no price changing, no add-ons, no hidden feeds. They are prioritizing the affordability for their customers. Hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of Chicago's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you would expect. So if you are in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram because they're the only team that we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. Serving the community since
1963.
That's exactly right. All right, Mark, give me two things. One, your reason for optimism this year. What gives you confidence that Bears fans are going to enjoy this Bears season? And two, give me your other side. What are your this could pop up and be a major reason for concern?
Reasons for optimism is just balance. I mean, defensively, they're good. I think they have potential to be pretty good eventually on offense. I think they're balanced enough on offense that they don't have to put everything on the rookie quarterback's shoulder. I think they're good. They're going to be good. Not only are they good on defense, but they're balanced on defense. They have playmakers at all three levels. They have depth they don't have depth at all three levels, but they have enough depth and versatility on their defense that they can cover up a few holes if they're not too big, like Sweat getting hurt or something. So I think there are they have more margin for error. Whereas if one thing is bad, there are other things that can make it look like if their offense is not great, I think their defense can help them out. I think eventually, if their offense isn't good, if their defense isn't good, I think their offense down the line will be able to help them out. I mean, there's a lot of potential there. So I just think they're just better balanced than most teams. Bears teams always seem to have some really major flaw, and right now, they're not perfect by any stretch, but I just think they have enough balance on offense, defense, and within their offense and defense that it's less likely for there to be the kind of breakdowns that have happened so often in the past. And as far as the negatives, it's just depth on the defensive line. Yeah. I think you lose Sweat or something, and you lose that pass rush. All of a sudden, that puts pressure on your back, your secondary, which should be good, but you put too much pressure on them. That's never a good thing. There's a chain reaction that can happen there. Even in the interior, they're number one. I think they were number one against the run last year. You lose Billings. You saw the moves they made this last week. That's, I wouldn't say sign of desperation, but it's a caution flag at the very least. And that shows you, they lose a guy like Billings and Dexter, or if Dexter doesn't take that next step, and Pickens is injured or whatever, and it doesn't develop, you might have issues there too. So defensive line, and then of course the big X factor, offensive line. Can they stay together? Already we're seeing them mix and match. 2 practices ago, they had like 6 different combinations with their number one offense just in the second practice to the second to last practice of training camp, 11 days before the start of the season. I think they'll be good if they play together. I think it's good enough. What they have is good enough. But that can go awry as well. And if it does, that's going to put even more the kind of pressure on Caleb Williams that they really don't want to have. And not that he can't rise above it, but so that's good. He's better. He can overcome it a lot better than either of the other two. Even though Fields was mobile, didn't have the ability to be mobile and turn it into a big play passing wise like Caleb Williams can. He can make. And I sorry to go off track here, but I always say he can make that one. If you got a left tackle, like for instance, I always say this: the Bears had Charles Leno was a really good left tackle, but he would make one or two mistakes a game, and you saw him every time. Because then we get Cutler killed. You got a guy at quarterback now who if Braxton Jones makes that one or two mistakes in a game, he can. You got a quarterback who can erase that, and then all of a sudden, all you have are his good plays. So your left tackle play is much better. So even though I'm saying that offensive line is a concern, and no doubt it is, I'm also saying that, part of the theme of this is why things look better than they have is you also have a quarterback who can erase some of these mistakes. And I think that's something that you don't want to necessarily lean on, but in those moments, you've got a guy who can do it. It just depends on when he gets to that level. Might be right away. It might be after the bye. Who knows? But it can happen.
It's interesting, I had actually forgotten this. The Bears were in the bottom half of the league as far as points allowed. Of course, their defense changed in the middle of the year, but they gave up 22 plus. There were 12 teams that gave up more, but they were number one in the league as far as yards on the ground, 86. Nobody was better than the Bears last year. Gregory, I know you got a bunch here that you want to get into.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. Like worst case scenarios, if you had to rank the players they can't afford to lose. A lot of people just go to Caleb right away, but honestly, it's Montez Sweat 1, and you might be able to make the argument that it's Gervon Dexter and Andrew Billings 2 and 3, because if they lose that depth or the quality players at the top end of their defensive line, they're not going to be able to stop the run. They're not going to be able to get to the pass rush, and now it's a trickle-down effect to everything else. And so if you had to lose a guy for a couple games, God forbid, but that's what happens. You saw last year Tyson Bagent able to come in and win 2 of the 4 games he played in, and he's looking even better here this year. Just the nature of the game, though, when you got to deal with injuries at times. So moving over to Matt Eberflus, when he spoke to the media, he certainly has had like this makeover here this offseason with his, not only his looks, but his reputation, right? And you see Travis Kelce at the end of the Chiefs game on Hard Knocks, like, hey man, I love what you're doing over here. And it wasn't that long ago where Kelce was mic'd up saying, I don't know who this guy is. And so it just kind of shows you like how much he has kind of changed the perspective of him. And so to me, my question is, okay, I see that he's made adjustments. He's adapting. I see how he develops players. I can give him the credit where credit is due. But at the end of the day, how he manages the games week to week and executes those play calls in the fourth quarter in situational moments, I still have questions there. And when he was talking to you guys in the media, Jason Leisure asked him, like, how much self-evaluation have you done with your game management skills? And he said, not much. And that for me, it was like a little thing, but I was like, man, that's interesting. You got a lot of confidence in yourself, because to my eyes, he made a few more mistakes than I thought he should have made last year.
Yeah, Greg, I don't think it was as acute as you would think, or as previous coaches have had. I didn't notice that he had a huge game management. For one thing, he wasn't in all that many situations where he could show one way or another. I will say, I think the makeover, whatever you want to call it, is mostly cosmetic at this point. We don't know how he's going to handle those late game situations, how he'll handle the quarterback situation or the offense struggling or whatever, all these things, these managerial things, and even in the games, we don't know that. So, we'll see that as it happens, but right now it's an unknown. And I'll be honest, I don't think Eberflus's seat is going to be as hot as people think. I just think this team has a pretty high floor, and I don't think it's going to be the kind of disaster that people are going to think like last year when they started 0-4 and were horrible. I mean, they can start out 1-3. I mean, but I just don't think it's going to be the disaster that was last year, where you're going to make a change. And especially it's still the guy that it's still Ryan Poles' guy. I think he's going to be loyal to him. I don't see Flus being in real trouble until he gets to a point where they're good, but they're not winning enough games. They're good. Some of these teams, and that takes a year, 2-3 years, where you become a winning team, but you can't get over the top. And which you see, to me, that's going to be the Eberflus issue. He's good enough at managing a culture, managing a team. He's not going to lose this team. That was all that coaching stuff was overrated last year. The things that happened as far as how it reflected on him, that was kind of BS to me, to tell you the truth. I didn't think that reflected on him. He just handled it poorly in answering questions about it. That made him look worse. But his managing of a team, he knows he knows what's important. And I think he's actually pretty good at that. So again, I don't see him being on the hot seat this season. I just don't see them being, like I said, as bad as Bears teams have been, where you think, oh, wow, you got to make a coaching change. So that's really been kind of off my radar, the whole Eberflus's status, because I know he's like, you could look around anywhere on the internet and he's like first or second for the coach of the year and first or second for the first coach to be fired. And those are legitimate odds, but I just think he's more likely to do to win the coach of the year than he is to be the first coach fired. Because I just don't think the circumstances are going to be right for him, especially, and sorry to go long here, but especially if his defense is not the problem, because then if you're going to make a change, now you got to start all over. With your offensive coordinator, you got to start with a defense. It's just too much. It would be too much change. And again, I just don't see this being the disaster. And believe me, I've been wrong about this before. That would necessitate a change. So I guess that's my main thrust to answer your question. Is that I just don't see Eberflus being just a big issue as far as on the downside. It's just a question of whether he can manage the games. And again, I hate to go on, but again, here's another case where the quarterback can make him look like a great coach.
Yep.
He hung in there with Caleb Williams through 4 or 5 series against the Bengals, and Caleb Williams made him look like a genius. And if not a genius, made him look like the right move, right? Well, players make a difference. I always go back to Matt Eberflus could be a Brian Billick, who to me was not a great head coach, but had a long career, won a Super Bowl, didn't even get his side of the ball right. He got the job because of Randy Moss and the Vikings offense. They never got that offense right, but he had a nice long run there with the Bears fans. The Bears fans would envy, including a Super Bowl, without really being a great coach, but a good kind of manager and a guy people like to play for. And I see Eberflus, at least right now, fitting into at least that mold, if not eventually becoming a really good coach. I mean, he's learning as he goes along. It's only his 3rd season.
That's a great comp, and I like what you said at the start of that whole thing, that the improvement to this point has been cosmetic. We don't know. Maybe he'll be a better game manager. Maybe he'll have some breakthrough moments there. But we got to play the games. Did anything surprise you, Mark, about the 53 roster decisions that they made?
No, I think I'll be honest. I think roster cuts and position battles are the most overrated part of training camp, because the bottom of the roster with 16 players on the practice squad, you're very rarely going to cut a guy who's going to come back and beat you. I remember one year they cut Cravon LeBlanc, and he ended up making a play against him in the playoff game with the Eagles. But I think the Lions had originally picked him up. But anyway, that's a rare case where you cut a guy who ends up coming back to haunt you. And even then, that was kind of minor. But in general, those guys, you can put them on the practice squad unless it's a total misevaluation, like maybe like in the middle of that one season where they had Raheem Mostert and they cut him, and now he's a really good player. But anyway, and also as far as position battles too, because when you got position battle, because you got 2 even players, whether one or the other, I think the center position is a perfect example. Whoever won that, it doesn't matter. It's like, one year I think Roosevelt Colvin beat out Brian Urlacher at strong side linebacker, and that was a big. But it wasn't like Brian Urlacher wasn't going to make the team. He ended up being actually pushed him into the right position because Barry Minter got hurt a couple weeks later. He was starting, and the rest is history. Casey Wegman beat out my first year, and Casey Wegman beat out Olin Kreutz well, Olin Kreutz was a 21-year-old rookie. Casey Wegman, as it turned out, was a Pro Bowl center for the Chiefs. So it was two really two really good players. So anyway, I guess a long way of saying no, nothing on the 53, because the bottom of the roster, I think it's important to have depth, but I think with the practice squad, you can keep those guys on your team, and it's just not as significant, especially when your top of your roster is so much better now than it was with the roster they inherited from Ryan Pace 3 years ago.
So last one for me, Mark Potash, and so many things I appreciate about Potsy outside of this, the overall just good human being that you are, but the experience and everything else. Your antenna pops up in the room when people say things that are off, and then you tend to follow up and ask the questions. So I was, one of the parts from the press conference the other day with Poles, quote, I think it's special, like the group of guys. It's special. And I talked a lot about that. But even when we got through cut down days and you're letting guys go, they're like, man, I just want to be here. I can feel it. Like they have talked a lot about their culture. And I've underlined it a zillion times on the show. Like in the Bears locker room, you got a bunch of good dudes. Like Chase Claypool stood out like a sore thumb last year because he just didn't fit in there because he was a pain in the ass. But I'm just curious, does your antenna come up at all here, Potsy? Like, you know what? I'm not so sure this tremendous Bears chemistry is actually what the Bears are kind of selling to us.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I kind of tune that out a little bit because it's so cliche. Everybody wants to have a good culture, just like the quarterback who, they love the quarterback because he hates to lose. Like what quarterback doesn't hate to lose? So I mean, it's just, to me, it's like it's cliche. Is it good culture? I mean, it seems like it. I'll say this: those wide receivers. When you compare the wide receivers and the weapons they have to the wide receiver room they had when they had Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall and Martellus Bennett and Jay Cutler. And now you look at what they have now with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet. Rome, you talk about, I mean, it's surprising. Those are really good guys. Those are good guys. Those are good players, not just good guys. I think that makes a difference. I think that's better because, as you saw, all that talent they had with Bennett, they all went haywire on him. Even Alshon did at the end, and that was very short-lived. That's the best. Greg, you mentioned it before, the 2013. That's the best group of offensive players the Bears have had since the Ditka era, and yet look how short-lived and how unsatisfying it was. My point is, this group, you talk about culture, these are really good guys. I mean, we got to wait and see. But I mean, even when Keenan Allen said, was asked about like DJ Moore getting a contract and the Bears wanted to wait and see, we'll see what happens down the road. But he was good with it. He was fine with it. And that's a good thing from a wide receiver, as you've seen in San Francisco and other places. Yep. I'm almost looking forward to the Bears having issues like that, frankly, because that means they're good. But right now they don't. And my point is that they have a really good room in that particular thing, because those receivers, including Odunze, I think is going to be a good player. Those are really good guys. So in that respect, I do pay attention to it because I think it's a good example of their star players just being better guys to have on your team than the group they had before, which were, if they weren't bad guys, they were just kind of inherently dysfunctional. Like a guy like Cutler, who I think, not the word, a good guy. I think he's a good guy, misunderstood. But boy, he just did not suffer fools gladly, didn't get along with people very well, was easily annoyed, and just made it very difficult for him to be successful. And I think you have a better group of guys to do it. So to answer your question in a long roundabout way, I think, in that respect, if it holds, which I think it could, I think this new culture is a good thing. But I'll be honest, it's because you've got really good players too. Like I always say, Caleb Williams teaches you how to win. You didn't need Justin Fields, to learn how to win. You needed players who teach you how to win. Like, good players teach you how to win.
I think that was an excellent underlining, because you could certainly make the argument that Brandon and Alshon and Martellus are better than what they have right now. But it went sideways because they were nuts.
Yeah. All in their own way too,
Yeah. So
And Jay was a misunderstood guy, but just difficult to win with everywhere from the very beginning to the end. And that's what you don't want. And I think you have a chance to have the polar opposite of that in Caleb Williams from what I've seen so far. I'll say that right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, talent is going to lift all tides. So even though they had some dysfunction, they were still good teams, but they weren't Super Bowl caliber teams, maybe because of A, some bad luck, and B, not having that right chemistry. So you're hoping that the talent and the chemistry combined here will lead to some success that Bears fans haven't seen in a long time. My final question for you before we let you jet here, Potsy, listening to you with Hogan Johns earlier, and you did such a great job with them, but I know that you're enjoying your time here with us more. Is that you said that it was, I know that. You don't even have to say it. I can see it on your face. So to me, one of the things that stood out to me when you guys were talking about Eberflus and Poles really emphasizing how Caleb needs to play point guard, and that's you. I think you said that's paramount. That's the foundation of this year, is to let Caleb Williams not make him have to do too much. But my question is that something that they can actually do where you're balancing developing Caleb properly versus calling plays to win games? And I look at week 1 as kind of a perfect example of this. As much as, hey, we're going to run the ball and we're not going to put too much on Caleb's plate in the first 2 quarters. Well, the Titans defense is going to probably stop the run. They have a very good defensive line. So that leads me to believe they are going to start throwing the ball like right away because out of necessity to move the chains. So how realistic is it to have a healthy way of developing Caleb, but calling plays to try to win games in a season that has a lot of high expectations?
Well, I think it's a good point, Greg. And I think the key thing is you have a quarterback who, if he has the ability to at least rise above that and do it. You just don't want to put it on him every single time. I don't know. I'll be honest. I really don't know how it's going to work. All I know is their goal is to put him it's even not so much a play calling thing. Well, they want to put him in advantageous down and distance situations, and I always put him behind the sticks and create plays like that. And I think that Waldron's really good at that. I think he's very cognizant of that. They rarely talk about third downs. They don't want to even be in third down. And so they want it. So I think that's where it is, where they really want to take the heat off him by just putting him in better situations. And if teams are going to stop the run, that's going to, in theory, you have a quarterback who knows how to take advantage of that. I think we've seen indications that he knows how to read a defense better than Justin Fields did, and knows how to react to what a defense is giving him. Like there was a play in I think it was a Buffalo game, where he had like Simba Webster open early, and then he threw that nice pass to Komet late, and he made a decision. And those two factors there. One thing, he's got to be able to find that open man early and be able to pull the trigger on that, which is something Fields couldn't do, and then find the other guy late. Well, then I think I remember Dave Wannstedt said on the score or whatever that, that deep play to Komet is not going to be there. So it's really not as, I think his point was that, like, it's not as, it's something that you shouldn't go crazy over. But the point is the decision-making. It's the fact that this guy saw that there was a better play open, and when there isn't a better play open, he'll throw to Simba Webster and get it. So I think they're counting on him being that kind of quarterback, as opposed to a guy who just drops back every time, looks for 2 guys deep, and tries to make the big play. I'm not sure if that's where you were getting at, but I'm just saying I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. But there are going to be times where he's going to have to kind of rise above it and lift this team. But I think they want to minimize those things. I think that's the key. And they have a quarterback who can do that. The question is, do they have the team, the running game, the versatility, and the playmakers to be able to take the heat off him? And, that's what the first 6 games before the bye are all about. And, this first game is really a great – you couldn't ask for a better – test, a better start for a rookie quarterback. Yep. First games I can't say are defining, but this is going to tell us an awful lot about where they are as an offense, because they should actually be pretty productive in the first game and not just skimp by.
Potsy, Brad,
I didn't answer your question, Greg. Sorry.
No. That was good.
Well, Greg appreciates everything, and he's told me before the show that he's going to buy you as many pints as you want in London, and we'll of course see you before then. And then we'll see you also, Potsy. We'll see you in New Orleans, come February. So look, this is we just get ready for a long grind this year.
Was that the NBA All-Star game or?
Isn't the Super Bowl in New
Yeah.
Orleans this year,
Oh, is
buddy?
it? Oh, okay.
Well,
Sorry.
hey, and you didn't tell
Sorry.
you haven't told us yet when how many days till locker cleanup?
Actually, I did early in the year. I had I can't remember what the number was. It was 176, but it took you to the day after the wild card game.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't. We didn't.
You had to do the math.
Oh,
Yeah.
Getting creative. Creative.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking, we're talking. This is a time where you talk about predictions, and I think I've been on like 10-7. But when I go to the press conferences and listen to the press conferences, I'm like at 11-6, and then I go out and watch practice, and I'm at like 9-8 because it like brings me back down to earth. When I see guys leaving, just things happening the way it is. So it's really hard to tell. I'm sticking with right now 10-7, but with a better chance to be over that than under. I'll say that, and you can. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The Bears have disappointed so often that it's hard to be optimistic. But from what I've seen, I am optimistic. I think 10-7 is reasonable, and I think there's a better chance that they go above that than they go below it.
Wow.
They've never let us down before, so there's no reason to feel.
Yeah, well, they have, but I guess I'm buying into the Caleb Williams thing. So we'll see if I got to pull the Charlie Brown Lucy football.
No, it feels right.
Myself, in a few weeks.
It feels right. You know it when you see it. And as a long-suffering Cubs fan that finally got to see a championship, certainly Cubs fans that suffered a lot longer than me. The year that 2015, the year before they finally won it, you could tell that those guys were a little different and their chemistry was a little different. And all those past failed teams that we hoped were going to work out, they didn't.
Guys coming in right off the bat, which had never happened before. Guys used to just get suffocated, and then all of a sudden these guys are coming up for it and producing. That was a good sign. Yeah.
Yep.
So. But I am a skeptic, though. I've been at this so long. I'm such a skeptic. I think the Bears are going to be good. You watch. This will be the one. It's going to beat them. It's going to burn them. The kicker, because because when they were good, they had kicking problems, and ever since they've been bad, their kicking has been fabulous. Right? It's been over 90%, better than Robbie Gold. It's just be the Bears' luck. This is the year that that Cairo Santos has an issue. And I was got to say, he missed more kicks in training camp than he ever has.
That's true.
Don't you put that evil on us, Mark.
Yeah, I should. This is probably the wrong venue to have that take, but it's just I'm just telling you, that's how a skeptic thinks. Is there's always something that will go wrong with the Bears. You can't. It's unavoidable.
But this is the most optimistic you've been since.
Probably 19. I think I was sold on 19. At that point, we thought Trubisky was going to take the next step, and he had the best defense in the NFL. That should have been it. And as it turned out, the defense had peaked. It was still good, but they lost Fangio, which was a factor, and Trubisky just lost. Was just not as good. So I'm not gonna. I think 19. We were all pretty optimistic.
Yeah. All right, Mark, you're the best. We'll see you. We'll see you this week. Okay.
Okay, guys. Good talking to you, and we'll see you down the road.
Great.
Love you, Marcus.
Okay,
you're the best, Mark.
Yep.
Mark Potash for the Chicago Sun-Times. Greg, what should people do because of that amazing interview?
Yeah, definitely. You guys should all sign up to become a diehard here. If you're watching on our Roku channels or on Samsung, you go over there and Roku, I should say. If you go over, this is your chance to move over to YouTube because the show wraps here on the hour mark on Roku. And if you become a diehard, you can come over and subscribe and do all those things. But that's why it is a great time to become a diehard, Marcus. You get a free shirt right out the gate. You get discounts on all future available shirts like the one Mark's wearing, tailgates. Look at the claws up shirt. You can get that shirt for free. And so, a lot of good options. We got tailgates coming up for every single home game. You can get discounts on all available purchases there. And so, become a diehard. Head over to truefantravel.com if you want to go to Arizona with us. As Mark mentioned, we're going to be going to London as well. But as I said, we're wrapping up here on Roku. But if you want to watch the continuation of this program, head over to our YouTube channel, CHGO Sports. Search that. and you will find us, and you'll get to see the rest of the show because we're not finished here on this Football Friday, 9 days away from Bears football.
Yeah. Listen, I haven't been on in a week. We're doing a little extra out here, and we do want to talk to you, the amazing CHGO Bears fan, about an ESPN article. And I'll give you the headline on this one. 103 NFL players answer 6 burning questions about quarterbacks. So these are real NFL players, 103 of them. And they were asked the top 3 current quarterbacks. They were asking the rookie quarterback who will have the most successful career, most overrated, most underrated, and the biggest trash talker. So what's relevant to the Bears? Which rookie QB will have the most successful career? And the answer, of course, was Caleb Williams is the voter. Williams got 34, Jaden Daniels got 30, and JJ McCarthy got 10. Now, of course, this is before McCarthy got hurt. Michael Penix got 8 of them, and Bo Nix, who's starting for the Broncos, got 8. So the belief is real in Caleb, but that's a lot of votes for Jaden Daniels, man. A lot of votes for Jaden Daniels, but there it was.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Anonymous players all voting. I mean, this isn't media opinion. These are players in the league. How many did we say it was? 103 of them. And
Yep.
So, a pretty split down the line with Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams there, 34-30. Caleb, you would think, would be the overwhelming favorite if you polled that question here in Chicago, right? It is interesting to see that. And, there was a quote that came out that certainly is making its rounds that certainly has Bears Twitter in a tizzy. Not that we ever do that on Bears Twitter, but from an anonymous NFC South player on which rookie QB will be most successful. He says, everybody is going to say Caleb, but bro, you realize you've got all that pressure. There's a difference when you've got that pressure, and he put that pressure on himself. So if he doesn't come out here like Patrick Mahomes level, then he's a bust in everyone's eyes. And that was pretty strong words there from an anonymous NFC South player. I think it's fun to try to figure out which NFC South player that was. But it just kind of goes to show you kind of where some of the players' mindset is with this guy. There's a lot of hype around him. He's certainly very talented. He still won the most votes from the players at 34. But this particular NFC South player certainly has his questions.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a Tennessee Titan player who's getting, amping himself up and his team up.
NFC South. So you got the Panthers, the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Saints.
Oh, NFC South. Why did I think it was the AFC? Okay.
No. There was an AFC West player that said it's Caleb with the most promising future if the Bears figure out what they have.
All right.
So, but the NFC South, a lot of people are speculating that it's Spencer Rattler who's in the NFC South now, and there's some history there with him and Caleb. Or could it be Bryce Young that said that? It's hard to say. There's a lot of players in the NFC South, but fun to try to speculate on which player it was that said that.
It's my first faux pas of the show. I apologize greatly for. Hey, we were literally talking about that again at the same. If you've been with us the whole hour. With the Nick Wright, Danny Parkins thing about which AFC South player was. So they had it wrong, and I just followed, and then I didn't read the article
King
well
Book
enough.
World says it was Darnell Mooney at the Falcons. That's interesting, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't realize this when we were talking pre-show, Braggs. Everyone's saying Spencer Rattler because Caleb took his job at Oklahoma.
100%.
I'm just realizing this now. And then,
right.
Obviously had a firsthand look at Caleb and probably has some reasons to not be his biggest fan.
Exactly.
It feels like a defensive player to me, but you never know. What I thought was interesting in this poll, they were asked about the most overrated quarterbacks in the league, and the number one vote getter was Josh Allen with 11. That is insane to me. Nobody is. Let me ask you this. Has anyone said, literally anywhere in any NFL corner, media, coach, player, Buffalo included, that Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes? Has anyone said that?
No.
They have not. Okay. So how is he overrated? Because there's no way he's not slotted somewhere in the Allen, Burrow, Herbert, that area. He's in there.
Yep.
So it just doesn't make sense to me that he's overrated. He's, I would say, perfectly rated. Who's denying that he is of that talent, that he is of that production, that you would, if there was a draft right now and it was a 1 year, who can you take to win football games? If it's a 10-year thing, even that, Josh Allen's still, what is he, 26, 27, whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's not, he ain't some old guy. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me. I'm a big Josh Allen guy. I know he certainly has turned the ball over, and they haven't gotten where they wanted to go in the AFC, but it's not an easy, conference to win. You got Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes fighting against you every year as well. And so, but he gets 11 votes. Jalen Hurts gets 10, Tua also with 10. And then Justin Herbert, who's the lightning rod of whether or not he's overrated or not, gets 9. Trevor Lawrence with 8. Those two are certainly always in that discussion too of, are they great quarterbacks or are they overhyped? So yeah, it's an interesting, I don't agree with the players saying that with Josh Allen, but again, this holds a little more, these rankings hold a little more credence than if it was polled by 103 anonymous media members. These are 103 anonymous NFL players that play against these guys.
Yes and no, because not that I'm here to prop the media up, but Stephen, I know you want to say something here, so I can't wait to hear it. But they also they did the top 100. Jalen Johnson wasn't in there. Like, these guys aren't.
DJ Moore wasn't in it.
Right. So they ain't perfect. What's up, Stephen?
I'm just thinking that Josh Allen's probably rated as the most overrated player by this poll, just because his supporting cast has gotten so much weaker this season. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is gone, and they're relying on Khalil Shakir to possibly be their wide receiver 1, or Keon Coleman, who's a rookie. I mean, that doesn't inspire the most confidence in me. I don't know about you guys, but I think the point here should be that Josh Allen's talent is through the roof. 15 rush TDs last year to go, I think, along with 30-plus pass TDs. I mean, who wouldn't want that on their team?
Right. And look, first of all, we just lost Steven, but that shirt needs to be underlined.
I'll come back.
Look at that thing.
I'm going golf.
That is extreme Hunter S. Thompson vibes right there.
But I don't think it's as in depth as was what Steven's giving credit to players to. I think this is personal. Who are my friends? And who do you look at and think like, that guy ain't nothing. I mean, look at the way they voted for Brock Purdy. Purdy was a vote getter in the most overrated with 6. Now he's on the back end of it, but he also is most underrated. He's at the top of the list. So he's on both. 14 players voted him most underrated. 6 voted him most overrated. I mean, it's just he just shows that,
difference of opinion, split locker rooms, right? They can, even locker rooms can't figure out who their quarterback is. Cause if you look at that list of underrated quarterbacks, Purdy, 14 votes, Stafford and Purdy both tied with 14 for most underrated. And then you have Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff and Jordan Love all tied at 7 votes, in second place or third, however you want to frame it. All 3 last year in the NFC North. So certainly interesting. Bryce Young also getting 7 votes for most underrated quarterback. So I think some of these players are still waiting for Bryce Young to get a shot to show what he's truly capable of. But as we were talking about earlier with Brock Purdy, he's surrounded by so much talent that sets him up for success. He's backed by Kyle Shanahan, one of the best play callers in the league. So for that reason, a lot of people sell short Brock Purdy's abilities in this league, right? He doesn't get the credit that Kyle Shanahan gets as much. So even though Brock Purdy was fighting for that MVP. So it's just interesting to see perception and, somebody in the NFC South saying Caleb's got to step up or else, he's going to be considered a bust if he's not Patrick Mahomes level. It just kind of shows how, everybody's kind of sharpening their knives with Caleb, right? You got Simmons, the defensive lineman from the Titans, talking some smack about Caleb, a month or 2 ago in an interview well before their week 1 matchup here. Now we're almost to game week. And, I just think there's certain players in this league that are going to look at Caleb and want to give him the welcome to the big leagues moment. Right. And so they want to see him prove it. and with all the hype that's behind him and all the commercial deals and everything else that he comes with. But you know, it was because people were like, oh, it's anonymous, like this is some random thing. Well, they voted 103 anonymous players. So it wasn't like this guy just randomly sent this into somebody. But at the same time, you're going to make a statement like that anonymously. You know, it seems to me the pressure's on you because you don't want to put your name next to it too, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't exactly know how the poll went down, but I'm assuming that it was just we're doing this anonymously. So go ahead, get involved. I mean, yeah, wrapping up the Allen part of it, he got 26 votes for the biggest trash talker. So how many of those people were like trash talker, overrated? Boom, boom. I mean that those two potentially could go together, but yeah, I mean.
It's an interesting article, and you can find it on ESPN if you want to read it for yourself. But certainly some interesting things in there for you guys to take in over this Labor Day weekend.
Lamar Jackson also was the second highest ranked quarterback with 124, and you know, I personally, he ain't number 2 for me. He's not number 3. He ain't number 4. But the players give him a ton of respect. So, and they probably know more about football than I do. I mean, that you would think, but again, it also seems like a little bit of a popularity contest. All right, Gregory.
Yes, sir.
We're going on hiatus here. It is Labor Day weekend.
You just got back. What do you mean?
Well, you know, I'm ready to go. Listen, you want to do shows tomorrow and Sunday and Monday? I'm here for you, buddy. Okay. But you know, this is, I think, as a team, our sort of hiatus moment before we don't.
I'm gonna be busy all of Saturday with college football because the first couple of games, you got a number 10 team to go down last week in Ireland, and then last night the Colorado game went all the way down to the wire against North Dakota State. So tomorrow, I'm going to be immersed in college football. I can promise you that.
You coming out to Northwestern to see the Cats in Miami of Ohio?
I am not going to, unless you're telling me I get to sit next to Ron Harper while I watch that game of Miami of Ohio fame. Then no, I'm not coming.
That's a nice pull by you, buddy. You got any other Miami of Ohio guys?
Come on now. If you think you reciting the Super Bowl shuffle by heart, if you think my love of the 90s Bulls and I can't Ray Clay my way through a Bulls starting lineup. Come on now. That's my Super Bowl show.
How tall was he?
Oh, that's tough, man. 6'5"?
A 6'6" guy from Miami of Ohio.
Ron Harper. Yeah. So I guess I couldn't go through it.
Yeah, no, you completely dumped it. Can you name any other Red Hawks?
From Miami, Ohio, Ben Roethlisberger.
Ding, ding, ding. There's one. There you go, buddy. That's a good job.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I know there's some things up here. It's not just Taco Bell,
Yeah.
In my
No, I know. Well, hey, we're looking forward to everything that's coming up here. I don't know. Is the first tailgate sold out? Do we have? Is there tickets?
No. To your point, there's always tickets available to all our tailgates. If you go to allchgo.com/events, you can see the whole itinerary list of every single date for every single home game for every single tailgate. Come out for week 1 against the Titans. Every single week, we're at the corner of Wabash and Cermak with our guys over at the Chicago Bears Tailgating Club. It is the gold standard in Chicago Bears tailgating, whether you're going to the game or not, and you just want to hang out with some Bears fans, come out with us. All you can drink. We provide the beer, all you can eat, firewater barbecue, all the vibes you want. You throw bags with us, hang out with us, smoke a stogie, take a shot, whatever your vibe is. But you can see, as Steven, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can see all the different lists of dates here coming up for all the different events here for CHGO Bears. So make sure you come on out, man. We have a lot of fun when fans hang out with us at the tailgates, and I'll be there bright and early. Sometimes I get there before the sun comes up.
You're right when this show ends. You're going to the first tailgate, correct?
Essentially, yes. Essentially, as soon as this show's over, I'll just be sitting in the lot probably not cross-legged Indian style because we got to get my knee right. But I'm gonna be there, leg brace and all, having some fun. Can't wait for week 1. It's gonna be a fun season, and it's been a fun training camp, fun preseason. But man, we've been waiting a while here for this, and we're 9 days away now. Single digits.
Well, we're gonna have a special Discord Bears happy hour, like we like to call before the season next week, where we'll take questions from you guys. I'm actually hopping over to the Discord right after this program. Any Bears questions Greg hasn't asked me anything about the tennis and who I got to see and some of the matches.
Who did you get to see? How was it?
No, you're out. You're out. I'll do that in the Discord channel coming up right after the program. Gregory.
Well, we have a couple super chats to get through here real quick. Inner Orbit Pinball. Yeah. Well, you've been out for a month, so you forget about super chats. And then Inner Orbit Pinball $1.99 super chat. My favorite me guy has returned.
Thank you, Inner Orbit. I appreciate you, brother.
Then Pizzatola, of course,
Is he back?
Life's all about balance. So you get the hype there, and then you get the hate with Pizzatola. $2 super chat. Didn't watch it, but loved the U.S. Open this week. I don't know.
Izzy, know this. I missed you, buddy. I thought of you in New York. You're the man, even though you hate me. It's okay.
At one point during the week, I put in a super chat that said, "Great show, except Carm," and then I put dash probably Pizzatola. Dat Fusion here is asking me, I was thinking about becoming a diehard, but only if Braggs will agree to shake my hand at the tailgate in Arizona. You got yourself a deal. Not only will I shake your hand at the tailgate, I'll probably drink an entire bottle of Crown with you and go out for Grimaldi's Pizza or Taco Bell later that night, and then we can hang out at Matthew Gregory's pool. We'll have a whole weekend of things planned, so you can get plenty of handshakes, but there's going to be a lot more fun that is involved with our Arizona trip. So make sure you go to truefantravel.com if you're like Dat Fusion and you're going to be hanging out with us in Arizona as we make 2 different trips for road games this year, and I'm very excited for those. Gritty $4.99 super chat. Glad to have you back, Carm. The rock, the foundation, the glue of CHGO. However, you are welcome to more vacation days if needed.
Gritty, I don't think I am. Hogue won't take my calls. Nobody even called to check on me. But it's okay. I'm not upset about it.
Well, Gritty had a picture, and I don't know if you caught it while you were on vacation, but he made a Photoshop of you as Jordan against the Pacers dunking on me and Hogue.
Ooh, I didn't see that, and I want to see that. I need to see that. I'd like to blow that up and put it at, I've been debating my background. Crystal, I appreciate that, Carmen. I didn't want to bother you. What could it be? Maybe that'd be the perfect thing. I don't like anyone's background. Like, you're all messy back there. You got half McMahon and a Hard Knocks, half a Bear. It just doesn't look good. I almost like my clean look over here.
Nick and Hogue have like the super professional backdrops. I have the Hard Knocks thing up because, we got Hard Knocks this month. It's just a little poster, but normally I'll take that down and it looks a little more organized. Then I got all these bobbleheads and stuff. So yeah, mine's more of a hodgepodge throw up of all my stuff, but I got a lot of cool stuff back here. I can't help it. I like it all. And you have nothing. So it looks like you're in a prison cell,
which I am.
So, yeah,
I stay in
every
prison.
Every day is a prison when you hang out with me.
That's right. They let me out. All right. Hey, everybody have a great weekend. Be safe on this Labor Day. I know people like to get after it. Enjoy yourself, but, take care of yourself at the same time. I'm heading over to the Discord right now. Let's
Diehard overtime, bringing it back.
I'm going chat. I'm going to be in the chat because, we're just going to chat it up today. That's the plan. Let's take some questions, whatnot,
I'm going to physical therapy now, so.
Good luck, Gregory. Don't push yourself too hard. One day at a time. Play the long game. And, Stephen, thanks for producing. We are back next Tuesday with Adam Amin in studio, leading up to our first tailgate of the season. The season right around the corner. I can't wait. Greg can't wait. Nobody can wait. Hopefully, it'll be the season of our Bears dreams. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for watching the CHGO Bears Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.